collision, the breakdown, and also the Trinity forwards. They matched the Royal forwards.
Shan Altaf to pull off that drop goal because he did it earlier in the season.
100%. It is 58 points to 6. Okay, that's how good that side was.
Hello everyone and welcome to this special discussion on the 78th Bradby Shield on Sri Lanka's #1 sports channel, the Papare TV. As you all know, the first leg ended a couple of weeks ago and Trinity College, they currently have a 1-point advantage after winning the first leg 17 points to 16. So we have the next leg, the second leg coming up tomorrow. And to talk about the first leg and to talk about the second leg, joining with me is Boa Atu, former Royal College player from 1996 to 1998, former CHN FC player, and he's also a Gallagher Shield winning coach and currently a World Rugby coach educator based in New Zealand. Welcome to the show, Boa.
Thank you. What an amazing venue here. It's very regal. I'm blown away. Thank you for having me, and always a pleasure to be on the Papare.com.
So as Boa mentioned, we have to mention about this place. This is the NH Collection Colombo. We are at the mansion. As you can see, it's quite a grand place, and you can certainly come here with your friends or your family and enjoy a very nice time here at the mansion. So Boa, let's cut to the chase straight away. The first leg, Royal College at the Jurassic Park, as you would say. So they lost that game by 1 point. Where do you think things went wrong for Royal College?
Yeah, very interesting. Jurassic Park. That's a term I use back when. Actually, I wrote an article for the Papare.com back in 2018, and I used the term Jurassic Park. It stuck, and now everyone refers to it, which is fantastic. Look, where it went wrong, I think, for Royal is from a tactical point of view. They tried to play this game where they shifted the ball side to side, and they just didn't have the necessary skill set quite to pull it off. Whereas, traditionally, Royal have been very strong up front with their forwards, with pick and goes, being very abrasive, being very direct, being very physical. And they almost tried to kind of play a Trinity style again, and they didn't quite get where they wanted to. And that just allowed Trinity to defend, relatively easy. And of course, Royal were very indisciplined. By that I mean they gave away far too many penalties. And of course, clearly Trinity and Shan Altaf, they keep listening to what I say every week out, and they took the points. They built scoreboard pressure. But at the same time, what saved Royal to a certain extent, certain degree, was they took the points themselves. So it's just a 1-point ball game. But I think psychologically, it felt that Royal got beaten up and lost certain areas in the game, like the collision, the breakdown, and also the Trinity forwards. They matched the Royal forwards, more than matched the Royal forwards. And I think there's a psychological feel that it's more than a 1-point ball game. But the cold hard fact is that statistically, Royal lost by 1 point. So all to play for this Saturday.
So as you mentioned, Boa, they gave away too many penalties. I mean, just at the end, on that stats sheet, it was Royal College, they had considered 15 penalties, Trinity just 8 penalties. And as you mentioned, the continuity of play that we normally see from Royal College. Now, if you remember that game against Vidyartha, where they went for 30 plus phases and scored that try, they kept hitting and they kept hitting hard and they managed to finish the job there. And Trinity, on the other hand, as you mentioned, Trinity, we had this chat before the program. Trinity, they actually had the chance to make it a game where they really could have ended it with a lead of at least 15 points, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. As you correctly pointed out, the game against Vidyartha. To put phase after phase, you got to have discipline and you got to believe in your game plan. So I think Royal sort of deviated away from that. And as I said before, they tried a plan which didn't really suit them. And they didn't really shift from moving away from that game plan to what works best. And I think, Royal, if you're listening to this, and I know you will be, put some phases together. Just get some continuity, get the big forwards carry, get some gain line. And once you start getting into the game, building some momentum, I think things will fall into place. Trinity, on the other hand, they're very inventive. They're very creative. They used the kicking game was fantastic. And on a number of occasions, I had said that Royal, one of their weaknesses is that left edge. So if you recall how Trinity got most of their points, they kept exposing that left edge. So clearly, Trinity have been listening to what I've been talking about, and they played some very attractive rugby. It's just that they didn't quite finish all their opportunities. So we keep coming back to that first point, which is the single point advantage. So I think it makes it a very intriguing second leg. And there's a lot of scenarios which can go down. But I think Trinity are looking really good, which is something we'll talk about very shortly.
So when it comes to Trinity, did you ever expect Shan Altaf to pull off that drop goal? Because he did it earlier in the season.
100% on my a few weeks back. In fact, I kind of clipped and I posted it online, and I said, Shan Altaf, if you're listening to this, please pull out a drop goal. So again, clearly listen to what I said, and he pulled that out. The really cool thing is, this young man has the skill set, and he's got the confidence. He's got the ability, and obviously this is something they've been trying out at training, because it was a goal line dropout, and there's a poor exit by Royal. They shifted the ball to their right winger, and Altaf was right in the pocket, so it was pretty much a gift. So I would expect them to try and pull one in the second leg as well, but let's see how the cookie crumbles.
So, and also, Bhuvan, you mentioned that he really must be practicing this really hard. And this is something that we actually noticed during the setting up phase before the live began. Shan Altaf, he actually practices with a 60-meter distance. He actually practices that, and he actually pulls it off. And he pulls it off really well. So, I mean, that's the confidence he has, isn't it? When he can pull it off at the 60-meter mark, he will certainly do it at the 48-meter mark. That's what he did.
100%. And it's a skill. You got to have a skill set. And pulling it off when there's no one in front of you and there's no pressure is relatively easy. But being able to do it with, all that pressure, all that chaos, all that, the crowd, the noise at Jurassic Park away from home, that's something special. Those are the sort of things what Bradby memories are all about. And I think overall, it would have really given Trinity, and I'm not just talking about the team, but everyone watching at the venue and online. And by the way, if you want to watch this game, it's the Papare.com, live and exclusive. So make sure you book early. You don't get into any chaos just before kickoff. Okay. So coming back to chaos, he did it, with Royal right in his face. So that to me, that's a mark of a very special player. I can recall, I think it was back in 1992. We had an old Royalist by the name of Asanga Rodrigo. He pulled off something similar. I think it was at either Bogamba or Nittavella. Royal went on to win that Bradby, and that game was 3-0. And the drop goal was the difference. So it's a very special skill, very special player. And I have a sneaky little suspicion that it's going to be a very close game in the second leg, and someone might get the opportunity to be a real Bradby hero, and might be Shan Altaf.
Just 1 point separating two sides. Last year it was 3 points, but it was a completely different game, right? Because Trinity College, although they had the advantage, that first leg, it took place up in Kandy. But the second leg, Royal made a grand comeback and they managed to clinch the shield once again. So just 1 point separating the two sides, but Trinity College, they are playing at their home, and that will definitely be a huge confidence boost for them. And that psychological advantage, isn't it? We talked about this earlier as well, though, that psychological aspect of the game where you're trailing, and it's not something that a lot of teams have managed to do, isn't it? That coming back from behind after trailing from the first leg and to make it a big effort in the second leg and to clinch the shield.
It's tough. It's really tough, and it's a mindset because there's a lot of pressure. And the last couple of weeks would have probably been some of the toughest 2 weeks the Royal camp and probably the coaching staff and the coach would have had to endure. I know this all too well because I've been part of 2 Bradbys where we lost the first leg. And we actually won the second leg. The first time was back in 1997, where we did win, but we lost the Shield by 1 point. 1 point. Because it was a real heartbreak. And if I may, I'll tell you a little story about that as well. We lost the first leg 14 points to 6. And that was the first game ever played at Pallekele, which I refer to as the Lions Den. Now, back then, Pallekele was a very different, it wasn't quite a stadium, it was just a ground. They had no grandstand, it was just big concrete steps. And even the dressing rooms, because it was done in such a hurry, didn't have doors. Okay, so it was quite a surreal experience. And now you look at the Lions Den, it's an incredible place. And then we came back down to Colombo in the second leg. We were leading 18 points to 8. We bridged the gap and we had one hand on the shield. It was the very last play. The referee was Dilroy Fernando. And I remember this like yesterday because the last penalty, dead center, I actually gave that away. I had it in a ruck and the referee said, you got to leave it. I didn't. I wasn't going to leave it because Bradby depended on it. And a man called Nuan Fernando, he was the Trinity captain. He's probably got ice in his veins. He came up, he tipped the ball, and he slotted it through a whole 50 meters. They lost, but won the Shield on the aggregate. Fast forward 1 year, 1998, Royal, we had a stunning side, red-hot favourites, we'd beaten everyone. In fact, we talk about St. Peter's and back-to-back double champs. That year, Royal beat St. Peter's 58 points to 6. Okay, that's how good that side was. We lost the first leg, 20 points to 18. Absolutely stunned. Newspapers were like, red hot favorites, topper Trinity do the unthinkable. So it was a very tough couple of weeks. Everyone told us how bad we were, what we should have done. Everyone was a coach. So we had to endure all that. And then we went to Kandy, Bogambra, won the second leg, 42 points to 11. It was a record for the series right until then, and we won the Shield back. So, it takes a lot of character, it takes skill, it takes a lot of will and determination. So, let's see whether this Royal side of 2024 has that. But it's tough. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. But, there's only a handful of sides who've done that. So, I guess we'll find out on Saturday.
Exactly. So that was the review from the first leg, Boa, but we still have the preview coming your way from the second leg, which is just less than 36 hours away, we can say, from the telecast of the show. So right now we will go to a commercial break, and as I mentioned, we will be back after the break with the preview from the second leg of the 78th edition of the Bradby Shield. Welcome back here on to Sri Lanka's #1 sports channel, the Papare TV. Are joining with us once again for this special discussion on the 78th Bradby Shield. Now we're about to talk about the second leg, Boa. We talked about the first leg, how things went wrong for Royal, what were the good things that Trinity did. Now it's about the strategies. Now you're someone who has put up a lot of strategies as a coach, and we'll start with Trinity. What can they do to make sure that they stay in the lead and clinch the Shield after a decade?
Yeah, look, it's really simple. Rugby is a bit like chess. You got to play the right moves in the right part of the board. So with rugby, you got to play the right part of the field. And given that Trinity have a real match winner, like Shan Altaf, who can convert the points, and of course they have a very good forward pack, which has grown in confidence and which are more than able to match Royal's physicality up front. So I think they need to be playing in the Royal half, really put pressure in that area between the 40-meter and the 22-meter line. Because I've noticed Royal don't tend to defend that as well as they do defending their own goal line. Okay? So from a strategic point of view, that's where Trinity will get lots of opportunities where they can put pressure and see if they can force Royal to give up penalties. When they get the penalty, you take the points.
Yeah.
Okay, so I keep going on about this. Whenever you get the opportunity, take the points. There's two reasons for that. Number one, you build scoreboard pressure, and of course you take time out of the game because the game stops. The clock, obviously continues, and you take time out of the game, and that's time you don't have to play. So you got to approach the second leg like you're playing a knockout final or a World Cup final. You've just got to play to win, but you got to be smart about it. Okay, please. And you've got to manage your game in a way that you get all 23 players on game day. So that's your starting 50 and your impact to do the most damage. So I think that's where Trinity have to be very strategic, put pressure in the right areas, play it in the right part, get Royal, that big forward pack, to turn around and get them running backwards. Okay, and that will take a physical toll. And that's a game Royal are not good at playing. Okay. The opposite side of it is Royal need to try and do the complete opposite of that and play the game in the Trinity half. Look to use their line out, their set piece, and get back to that old-fashioned driving mode. Because that's something I feel they've moved away from. And really ask questions of Trinity and hang on to that ball. And I think if Royal can put some phases together, that will test Trinity. And one channel Royal haven't actually tested out at all is that number 10 and number 12 channel. They've just basically left Shan Altaf to his cares, and he's just grown an arm and a leg, and he's really enjoying life, not having to defend. So put pressure where you can open holes. So from a tactical point of view, what I'm saying is not rocket science. It's really simple, straightforward stuff. Just got to play to your strengths. So in that aspect, I feel Trinity have a slight advantage because they've got an all-round very good kicking game, and they've proven in the first leg that they can convert pressure into scoreboard pressure.
Exactly. So now you talked about the rolling mall or the royal mall, we can say. Now it was very effective in 2022, in 2023. Yes, they missed out on winning the league title, but they managed to win the Shield. So this year, even in the league, it didn't work out against the bigger oppositions, against Isipatana, against St. Peter's. In those games, in those crunch games, and just like in that first leg, it didn't work out. Do you think is it because Royal have become a bit too predictable, or is it because the other teams, they have grown in stature and now they have what it takes to compete with the big boys, the big forwards from Royal?
I think it's a bit of both. You're right, and this has been a criticism I put forward, is that Royal are very predictable, and that first leg was, plenty of evidence. It's very easy to pick their attack patterns where I could see it a mile away. And Trinity, all they had to do was basically shift Royal towards a touchline and wait for them to make a mistake. So that's the predictability aspect. So as far as the driving mall goes, they've, what's it now? It's probably given the opposition a good 10 years to figure out what they're doing, And I feel Royal, with anything in rugby, if you want to get really, really good at something, you got to practice it. You got to spend hours of training and preparation. So I feel Royal have probably sacrificed a little bit of that prep, and they've shifted into other areas of the game which doesn't really suit them, which is trying to shift the ball wide and attack those wide channels, right? So that's one aspect. And, when the opposition, when the intensity gets bigger and better, you're coming up against better opposition. And they will figure out how to counter the opposition tactics. We saw that against St. Peter's. They sacked that driving mall very effectively. And we saw that last week, the last Bradby, where Trinity actually, when Royal pushed, they actually pulled the mall sideways and they shifted it around. They drove around and they allowed Royal to drive the ball to the ground. And therefore, the ball wasn't presented in time. And the referee, who was Jaco de Wit, very rightly said, you didn't present the ball. Therefore, it was a scrum to the defending side. So you're right, Lakshmi. It's a bit of both. They are predictable. The opposition, obviously, Trinity have invested in a lot of tech. I see they've got drones. So clearly, they've done their homework. And I think it's a bit of psychology as well, because they feel confident that they have the tools and weapons to nullify whatever any opposition, let alone Royal, throw it.
So as you mentioned, I mean, it's all about making sure that you evolve, right? I mean, the evolution part is very important in any sport. I mean, if you stick to doing the same thing, if you become a bit too predictable, I think that's when you start to lose. I mean, that's something that I believe. I mean, you will agree as well.
100%. I'll tell you a funny story. I was having a chat with my dad, who's is a real student of the game, and we were talking about predictability and evolution. Now, we talk about Jurassic Park, right? And that's the term I coined. And Jurassic Park is a movie about dinosaurs, right? And you talk about evolution. We all know what happened to the dinosaurs, right? So hopefully this Saturday, Royal don't end up being a dinosaur, and hopefully the Royal crowd don't cancel me out for saying that. But that's the best analogy I can give you. You've got to evolve your game. You've got to bring innovation, which is what Trinity did, with those cross kicks, with those territorial kicks, and of course throwing in that drop goal when they received Royal's exit off that goal line dropout. And, to me, it looked like they were having fun, really having fun. And even though it's just at one point, the post-game, the crowd reaction, the players' body language, there was this real vibe that Trinity are on the cusp of something special.
I mean, if we take the last 2 years, I mean, because we had that break because of COVID. So in 2022, Trinity missed out by a whisker to qualify for the super rounds in the league. And last year, it didn't go well for them. But this year, they managed to take that extra step. They managed to qualify for the super rounds. And this year, in that first leg at the Jurassic Park or the Royal Complex, they have managed to get the win. So, I mean, as you mentioned, they have continuously evolved during the last 3 years, and they have managed to do it really well, and they have managed to get results out of it, isn't it?
100%. It's what I call a progressive form line. So, let alone the last 3 years, last 3 weeks, clearly they've shown that even in that league fixture against Royal, that first half, it was 22-0. And, I thought, Trinity are going to cop a 40-point hiding, but no, they came back and they only lost by a whisker. So that shows that there's real character and they believe in what they do. Now, also, let me say this. Trinity have not held the shield in 10 years, 2014. So this year, they have an opportunity to do something really special, which is probably going to be a generational achievement. And, if you allow me to clarify that statement, there will be children who would have come into Trinity, let's say 2013, 2014, at year one, and they're about to exit Trinity in the A-level year, who've never seen a school assembly where the Bradby Shield was presented. So this year, they're 70 minutes away from doing something absolutely historic. And the reason I put it that way is because I hope they understand the gravity of what lies ahead, and they have their destiny in their own hands. So I'm going to put my coach's hat on now, and these are the moments you live for, folks. This is what we live for. You've got to embrace the challenge. You got to take it. You got to grab the bull by the horns, and this is your chance to write your own legacy. You win this Trinity. You win this, people 75, 80 years from now will be talking about this. So it's special. It's really historic. And I think Trinity will really want to make a statement. And coming back to your point, evolution, this will create a whole new generation of young Trinity rugby players who will believe that they can go on to replicate this success. So it all lies in this team's hand. Like I said, 70 minutes from glory. Yeah, it's not a lot.
Exactly. So that's the emotional aspect, isn't it, that you mentioned? I mean, it's an emotional moment for all the Trinity boys if they can pull this off. And at the same time, they have to make sure that they don't let the emotions take the better of them. And that's the same thing with Royal, isn't it? I mean, I'm quite sure, as you mentioned, in the last 2 weeks, they would have heard a lot of things, they would have received a lot of criticism, but they have to make sure that the emotions doesn't take over and they focus on the upcoming 70 minutes.
Yeah, that's the tough part, because keep in mind, these aren't high-performance elite athletes. We got to keep perspective here, actually, because these are schoolboys. And I feel at times there's far too much expectation There's far too much weight of responsibility from adults, who want these schoolboys to do something extra special. I get that part. And one of the things we talk about evolution is that we have this whole aspect where we have to win at all costs. Okay. And for me, that's probably not an ideal situation. Let me put it this way. Winning isn't the only thing, but wanting to win absolutely is. So we need to create that culture. So hopefully both at Royal and Trinity, we're starting to see this, and Trinity, they're starting to want to win. So it's going to be a great occasion, and let's just look forward to it.
It's going to be a game for the ages, isn't it? I think I'm right if I put it that way. So we did the review, we did the preview, Boa. Now it's time to make that prediction, the final prediction. What's your say?
Okay, so here's the tough part. Okay, now I'm an old Royalist. I'm a very proud old Royalist. Naturally, I want my school to win, right? But as a analyst, I have to put all my emotions aside, and I have to play what's in front, look at the form line, and pick. If there's one outcome, the most likely outcome, I think Trinity will win the second leg, thereby winning the Shield. And they will win by 3 points or lesser. It's going to be a real close tussle. And I have a strange little feeling that it'll come down to the last 5 or so minutes. Might be a last play and might be a kick and goal. So someone has the opportunity to be a hero. For all money, I think it will be Shan Alta. So my prediction, Trinity to win the second leg by 3 points or lesser, thereby to win the 70th Bradby Shield and bring back the Holy Grail to Kent.
So that's the prediction from Boa. Shan Altaf was probably to be the hero once again for Trinity College at the second leg. So Boa, thank you very much for joining with us for this very special discussion on the 78th Bradby Shield.
My pleasure, and again, thank you for having me, and what an amazing venue. Thank you.
So, as Boa mentioned, it's quite a majestic venue here at the NH Collection in Colombo. You can definitely come here with your friends, your family, and have a great time at NH Collection, the mansion. That's the name of the place. Come to NH Collection and make sure you come to the mansion. That's the name of this place. So, thank you very much everyone for joining with us, and make sure to catch the live action on Sri Lanka's #1 sports channel, the Papare TV. The second leg of the 78th Bradby Shield is coming your way at 3:45 p.m. on Saturday. So make sure to join with us. You can catch the action live on our website, www.thepapare.com, and you can catch the action live on our Facebook page as well, and you can catch the action later on our YouTube platform too. So once again, thank you very much for joining with us, Boa. Thank you once again. So hoping to see an electric game on Saturday at Pallekele. So stay tuned to papare.com everyone. Have a very good day.